morning and welcome to The Good Life with me, Eileen. We are here on The Good Life Friday and we're here to open your mind. Good life, good life, in a different land. We are here on The Good Life Friday, and you know that is the day I like to open your mind to living differently in the world. We focus on a person, place, event, or something that will warm your heart and exude all of the positive energy so you can, fulfill your weekend, so you can live the good life too. A little peace, a little love, understanding, compassion, and tolerance will make the world different, which is exactly why I thought this was a great conversation for today. I have in studio none other than the Dwayne Bernal. He has become a fixture in New Orleans. He's the co-founder and president of Royal Engineering, an industry-leading small business focused on engineering possibilities that enhance and restore communities and environments in which it operates. Dwayne established Royal to meet the vast engineering recovery and coastal restoration needs of the Gulf Coast in the aftermath of Hurricane Katrina. But about 7 years ago, his engineering abilities kind of switched over to engineering our community through opening people's minds to living differently in the world, because he went through a process himself that changed his life, and he has touched so many people in that process that I really wanted to have this conversation today. And he is actually taking this conversation on the road. It is called Live and in Color. It's a conversation on cancer and diversity. It will be in Washington, D.C. on June 6th. It will be in New York City on June 8th. It will be right here in New Orleans on June 21st and Atlanta on June 22nd. And you can go to all of my social media platforms. That's The Good Life Radio Show on Instagram, at TGL Radio Show, Instagram and Twitter. The Good Life Radio Show on Facebook. The link is there for all of those cities, so you can make sure you sign up, because you do not want to miss this event. As a cancer survivor, 7 years, Dwayne, I can't even imagine.
You're so much better than me at this.
Welcome to The Good Life. That's why
I'm in awe just watching your opening. I just want to sit there and listen. So.
Well, see, God kind of touched me. He was like, I want you to do this. And he obviously touched you and have put you on a path that, I don't know, did you ever think you would be on this path?
No, I guess for me, I was, I tell a lot of folks, for me, being diagnosed with cancer was probably one of the best things that's ever happened to me. I think it literally saved my life. Whereas I've been very blessed. It was a eye-opening experience. It was very, it really changed my world. And I can tell you I was lucky. And that was one of the reasons why, as we get into the discussion, I'll tell you why I'm doing the work that I'm doing currently. But I'll kind of go back 7 years and tell you why, I feel lucky. At the time, and
because that's generally not most people's perspective, but God uses people. So if you can look at something and turn it around, perspective is everything.
Well, yeah, and then I don't have anything to complain about. I can say 100% that I'm in a better place as a person, as a man, as a father, as an individual today than I was 7 years ago. So obviously it's been a blessing. I don't feel that I'm other than physical ailments any worse off, and I really don't know if physically, and we can talk about that too. I think I'm physically better off 7 years later than I was 7 years ago.
I think people around you would definitely agree.
Oh, yeah, I used to be
marathon man.
Yeah. We can just,
We'll get into all that, but yeah.
I think for me, just like I said, it starts with my diagnosis, and it's part of the conversation that is to be had, because my diagnosis was a blessing. It was the point of, I was asymptomatic. I didn't have any symptoms, and I'll tell you the story. What it was, I have two young sons. They're a lot older now, but at the time, I was coaching Jonas, my oldest son, at the park. He was playing football. I was coaching. In a random incident, took a helmet to the side from a kid in the drill. Fast forward, maybe 2 days later, I went to my first checkup since I got out of the military. I'd been out of the military at that point, maybe like 8 years.
Because you went to West Point.
I did go to West Point, among other things. You read the little bio stuff, but yes. So first checkup in 8 years. Actually, as a good friend, had just kind of encouraged me to go do it. She was in the healthcare. She was a healthcare professional. She's like, just go do it. So going for my first checkup in 8 years, just so happens that a kid hits me on the side. I've got a bruise on the side, and wonderful doctor out of Metairie, Dr. Robert Johnfro, very thorough, and he just looks at it and he says, well, it's in a weird spot. So, if you don't mind, I'd like to just do some additional tests, because, you've got a lot of vital organs, and I want to make sure you don't have any issues from, taking the helmet to the side. Right. So me being,
And how old were you when
I was 30, so I was like, no, I'm fine. I feel fine. There's nothing wrong. He's like, okay, well, just, indulge
30,
me.
we're, invincible.
Yes, I was in my mind. So long story short, I go in, he orders an ultrasound, and then it's like a whole bunch of commotion. There's people moving around, and then I just feel like, okay, that's not good. And then I'm called back 2 or 3 more times for more testing over the course of a week. And then I go in a week later. Doctor I don't know, Dr. Sean Collins, he's the director of the East Jeff Center for Urology, calls me and he says, look, Mr. Bernal, I know you don't know me. I've got a surgery this morning, surgery this evening. Can you pop my office in between for a conversation? I said, well, Doc, that just doesn't sound good. But I go in. And to his credit, just kind of cut right to the chase. He was like, you have cancer. And that was like,
wow.
Yeah, exactly. Same reaction I had. Wow. And not only did he tell
me
me
what is that moment like? Because I'm sure there's listeners out there that have had that moment and listeners out there that are fearful of that moment.
It's like if you've ever done what we call a belly buster. Like when you jump off the pool and you're
yes.
like, yeah, and you flop into the water.
And the pain stings.
It's just like that. It's just like that. It kind of stings your whole body. It knocks the breath out of you. I mean, I had to go to the restroom and kind of collect myself and came back, and then we got very practical about it. And he was, very, and I like telling the story because, it leads into just with the work that I'm doing now. But he got right to the point. He said, look, you have kidney cancer. It's not treatable by any chemo or any radiation. The only option is surgery. And my concern is, we don't know if this could potentially spread or if it has already. And, I don't want to risk doing a biopsy and potentially, causing any complications. I just want to remove your kidney. And I want to do it day after tomorrow. And
wait, what?
Yeah. It's a Monday and he wants to do it on Wednesday. And I'm like, no.
So this is like in a matter of 5 or 6 days.
Yeah, it's like less than 7 days. It's less than a week. So going in, 30-year-old, healthy, father of 2, running a business, kind of running around, just being a guy, and then here I am less than a week later, a guy's telling me that I have cancer and then he wants to remove my kidney and, it's a major, major surgery. So in my mind, I mean, the first thing I think I'm dying,
right.
I'm going to die.
Right.
That's my thought at that point. So I took a different approach. I was like, no, I'm good. We don't have to do it on Wednesday. I'll come back some other time. He's like, that's not really how it works. He's like, if you don't come back, more than likely you will die. He's like, we have to remove this. So I was like, okay, well, and then I went into like businessman mode. I said, well, let's negotiate. I was like, how much time?
Let's negotiate my surgery.
How much time can I actually get before you feel that we need to do it? It's like, no, we need to do it Wednesday. I was like, all right, well, how about 3 weeks? So we scheduled a surgery that Monday. I mean, literally all in the matter of him diagnosing me or telling me I've been diagnosed and leaving his office. So from coming in there and an hour later, we scheduled the surgery. I'm already in the system to have my kidney removed. I've already started the pre-surgical consult procedures and have all that. And at that point, I took those 3 weeks because I needed that time. Because I had to, accept it and process it.
I was about to say, what was going on between him telling you had to have surgery, it being scheduled, and then you going in?
Well, a lot went on in those 3 weeks. So, one, I wanted to the folks closest to me, let them know in person.
Mm-hmm.
So, my mother and my brothers live in Lake Charles. My sister lives here. So I traveled out to Lake Charles to tell her and my brothers. Spoke with my sister. I had some good friends that live in Houston. I went out there to talk to them. And then the ones that I just couldn't practically get to, actually convened in Las Vegas, a couple of us for a weekend.
Well, that sounds like fun. Yeah. If you got to do it, might as well.
Yeah, and then I as you mentioned in the intro, I own and operate a business. At this point, I had maybe 55 employees. We were doing a ton of recovery-related work in the city. It was just very busy, and I just had to, also because of the recovery associated with it, I was going to be out of work for, 6 to 8 weeks.
And you had put so much time and effort and blood and sweat in the business.
One is just it's part of the issue where there is a disparity for the mortality rates and also just the incidence rates for particularly people of color and people with different varied socioeconomic backgrounds. Is I was blessed. I could be out of work for 6 to 8 weeks and not have to deal with the stress, the economic stress of that. That's not true for most of people that look like you and I.
Mm-hmm.
So, I was lucky and I was blessed in the sense, and it really opened my eyes because, yes, I had to step away from my whole life. I didn't answer an email or call or didn't go and step foot in the office for 6 weeks. But went through that and then came out positively on the other end, had a very long surgery, did a great recovery, and then really I was good. I was fine. That was my cancer battle. And then, that's why I say I'm blessed. I felt like for a potentially deadly situation and then for a potentially short of the recovery from the surgery, my process was simple to me.
It was short compared to other people's
compared
journeys.
to others. It wasn't arduous. It wasn't dragged out. It wasn't, it was painful from a physical recovery standpoint. It was a very painful procedure and a very painful recovery, but it was somewhat finite. It was over, and then for that point, knowing, but it was still difficult. But then I could really understand that I had this difficult situation and I struggled. So, but I still felt like I had the best situation possible. So all the people who had worse situations than me, how much did they struggle? Because
what conversation would you have to those people? Like somebody who's finding out that they, have cancer.
Well, that's the goal of the speaking series, but it's also something, and that's kind of how it originated, because of kind of the way I'll just say move around, from a professional standpoint, a personal standpoint, a community engagement standpoint, some of the civic and social work that I do. I've become that person. Like I get calls all the time. My friend just got diagnosed with cancer. Can you talk to him? I live right up the street. I live right next door to the headquarters barbershop on Broad and Ursuline. That's where the barbershop is. I live in that area. And, I've talked to maybe 4 or 5 folks over the past 2-3 years who were recently diagnosed.
Wow.
Black males in their early 30s and 40s. And it's like, oh,
You mean the invincible generation?
I'm the cancer guy. It's
of
like,
course.
go talk to Dwayne. 'Cause I've actually, and it really was the genesis of this because, I realized in those conversations that I was having that it's so unique from a cultural standpoint that the organizations such as American Cancer Society, I've worked with them for the past 7 years, and I give them a ton of credit, but they can't really understand the plight of black men and women dealing with these issues fully because there is a lack of diversity, and I say it just objectively, there is a lack of diversity within these organizations and within the volunteerism and the leadership of the organizations. So as great as their intentions are and as much willingness as there is to understand, there's not necessarily an ability to do so because of that lack of diversity. And then also our lack of participation in the conversation. So I find myself these very unique discussions, unique to our culture and our background, that there aren't a ton of resources to address those issues. So after doing it so much on my own, I realized, okay, it's just not scalable. One person can't just do it. So I wanted to create a space to allow folks to not only express these issues so they can be recorded and addressed, but also to vent, to talk with one another, to even potentially, share some criticisms that they've had with some of the experiences, and just really, and it's make this organic conversation surrounding diversity. And like I said,
sometimes when you're not alone, it makes the world of difference.
And there's a level of comfort in that. We, what I found is specifically when dealing with black men and women is that there's a ton of we're prideful.
Yes.
We are less likely to say that we're struggling, or we're less likely.
We're less likely to go to the doctor.
Correct, and there are reasons behind it. There's a ton of reasons. There's a factual basis behind it. Like I said, it is cultural, it is socioeconomic, it is access to proper health care, and it is access to insurance. So we are, because of nothing but our culture, sometimes disproportionately affected by the same disease. If you look at the mortality rates, our mortality rates are higher. They're higher for a myriad of reasons. One of them, the primary reason being the lack of early detection, because we don't go to the doctor.
We don't go to the doctor.
And then they are, a lot of times.
Where does that stem from?
I know
you can't answer the world's, but your point of view.
But it's so many different reasons. Like I said, it's a matter of culture, it's a matter of socioeconomic, it's a matter of access to health care. It's those would probably be the three.
Any stigma?
I don't know if it's a stigma thing. I think there's some things that we're beyond prideful. We're strong, and we don't want to be viewed as weak, and sometimes we don't want to feel weak, so we avoid even when our body's telling us things,
Right.
And then the economic side of it is, and this is a conversation I have with a lot of folks, sometimes we can't afford to be sick.
Right.
So
simply, right.
We really cannot. So we will ignore the ailment, or we will ignore the symptoms, because although we know there's an issue there, a lot of times we say, I just can't deal with it right now.
Well, with this conversation, we will ignore this no more. Y'all, this is live and in color. It will be all across the United States of America in 4 cities. It will be Washington, D.C. on June 6th, New York City on June 8th. It will be right here in New Orleans on June 21st, and Atlanta on June 22nd. Make sure you go online right now and sign up. You can go on the Good Life Radio Show, and I have all of the links for every city so you can sign up. Make sure this is a conversation you do not want to miss. Live and in color with Dwayne Bernal, a conversation on cancer and diversity. We will get more in depth with that when we come back. This is The Good Life, y'all. All businesses play an important role in society, and L&R Security is no different. L&R Security delivers safety and comfort to our neighborhoods, events, apartment communities, conventions, work sites, festivals, and your business. L&R Security can be reached at 504-943-3191 to ensure the safety of your employees, customers, family, friends, and you. L&R Security has made its mark in the security arena for over 37 years and will faithfully continue that tradition. Call today for your personalized consultation to ensure your security needs are met. L&R Security differentiates itself by creating partnerships with our clients and guards. We are now hiring armed and unarmed guard professionals, retired military, sheriffs, and PD to grow with us and impact our community. Be a part of the change with L&R Security. Call us now at 504-943-3191. 504-943-3191.
Hi, I'm Henry Jolly, your relationship expert and nationally certified counselor. Everyone at some point in their life goes through struggles. I'm a firm believer that people have the ability to will themselves into good situations, but sometimes they may need some assistance. Being a loving husband, father, and successful businessman while having a passion for the counseling profession has allowed me to gain experience with a variety of these struggles. Let's work together to achieve your individual, family, or marital potential. Come and see me at the New Orleans Growth Center, located at 3712 MacArthur Boulevard on the West Bank in Suite 209. You can reach me at 504-259-8671 or by email, which is henry.jolly@yahoo.com. Thanks for your time, and I'm looking forward to working with you soon.
Carter Business Development delivers. For businesses to compete, they must have access. Let CBD be your bridge for business development services, radio advertising, social media marketing, brand ambassador, outreach, and access. Contact Carter Business Development at 504-400-7127 or email Eileen@tglradioshow.com. Carter Business Development creates unfolding opportunities. CBD connects the dots from where you are to where you want to be. Join the good life now with Carter Business Development, 504-400-7127, 504-400-7127. As quoted, a man who stops advertising to save money is like a man who stops a clock to save time. Let CBD save you time and give you access. Call 504-400-7127, 504-400-7127. Take the steps required for access so you can live the good life too with Carter Business Development. That's 504-400-7127.
Are you satisfied with your current financial position? My name is Kenneth Barnes, President and CEO of KB Enterprises, where we specialize in putting together step-by-step financial action steps for your plan for today and for tomorrow. Whether you're 50 to 85 and need assistance with your final expenses, we have coverage options for every situation. Let us put life back into your finances. Call us today at 504-914-1202. That's 504-914-1202.
Gentile Italian Pie is home to the $5 Family Happy Hour. Specials on pizza, wings, and drinks Tuesday through Thursday, 3 p.m. to 7 p.m. Gentile Italian Pie does fresh for the entire family. Salads, pizza, pasta, wings, and oven-baked sandwiches. Gentile Italian Pie offers lunch and dinner in a new, modern atmosphere surrounded by big screen TVs. Dine in or carry out by calling 504-826-9180. That's 504-826-9180. Relax. Have a drink from the fully stocked bar or beer on tap while your order is made from the freshest ingredients. Gentile Italian Pie, 4706 Paris Avenue, is home where everybody knows your name. So bring the family to Paris and Marabou for the $5 Family Happy Hour, Tuesday through Thursday, 3 p.m. to 7 p.m. That's Gentile Italian Pie. Dine in or carry out. 504-826-9180. That's 504-826-9180. You gotta try the pie. That's the original Italian pie, located at Paris and Marabou in Gentilly.
Are you looking for a better way to get fit? Bored with the same old routines? Looking for results or a way to instill discipline in the kids? Tiger Rock Martial Arts is the answer with Taekwondo, kickboxing, and self-defense classes. Tiger Rock diversifies your training in ways that allows individuals of all ages and fitness levels to feel like a champion. Join Tiger Rock today. TigerRockNola.com or 504-455-9694. That's 504-455-9694 with a 3-class starter pack starting for only $38, which includes your training uniform. Learn, grow, and succeed with Tiger Rock's 3 convenient locations: Old Metairie, West Bank, and Clearview. There's no better time to start gaining strength, skills, and protection for life than now. 504-455-9694. 504-455-9694. See you on the mat.
Listen to WBOK 1230 AM anywhere in the world. Live at www.wbok1230am.com. WBOK 1230 AM, talk radio in New Orleans.
Good morning, and welcome back to The Good Life with me, Eileen. We are here on The Good Life Friday, and we're here to open your mind. The Good Life radio show is live in living color this morning. We are here on The Good Life Friday with Dwayne Bernal. We are having a conversation on cancer and diversity, and it's just not here on The Good Life radio show. It is all over the United States. It will be in Washington, D.C. on June 6th. It will be in New York City on June 8th, New Orleans right here June 21st, and Atlanta on June 22nd. You can go to all of The Good Life radio show social media platforms and sign up. Just hit the link. It is free to the public. All you have to do is sign up, y'all. It's a conversation you do not want to miss. Mr. Bernal is a 7-year cancer survivor, and he serves on the Mid-South Regional Board for the American Cancer Society. He speaks widely on African Americans having the highest death rate and shortest survival rate of any racial ethnic group in the United States. Y'all, this is a conversation on reflections of social and economic disparities, and we really need to open our minds to living differently in the world so that this does not happen to you, and then we can unite and change our community. Dwayne, give us a little bit of background on this. And actually, before you go into that, we have a caller who has been waiting on the phone. We have Brother Al Mims. He wants to talk to you.
Okay, no problem.
Brother Mims, welcome to The Good Life.
I'm not going to be long. I want to commend the brother for his openness. Because I'm 62 years old. I had to deal with, 2 years ago, a prostate problem. And many of us are dying. Black men are dying needlessly because we got homophobia. We want to be macho, and we don't go to the doctor, and we don't want nobody sticking their finger up our behind. We got to do better. And I'm saying is, I did everything I was supposed to do. I took my time. The doctor took care of me, and I'm living the good life. I mean, we got, and I'm saying that, sister, it don't have to be all that. You don't have to rush into surgery, but you got to know what's going on in your body. You know, some of these brothers haven't been to a doctor since they come into the world. We can't do that. We can't do that to our children, to our wives, and family members. Does it make sense what I'm saying?
Makes clear sense to me, brother, and I appreciate you touching on a part of the issue. And when we talk about a cultural standpoint, that's one of the things that I've wanted to do is just break down those false barriers that we put up to why we can't have the same access and availability from a healthcare standpoint. A lot of it is elective and selective. We choose not to, and you're right. We have these personal issues, and one of the things that and this will come out of the conversation. One of the things that I've been talking to, and I started with most of my friends, is accountability. We can't watch one another die off and become sick for lack of, really taking care of ourselves. So I've tried to figure out a way to really create this dialogue between small social groups, specifically black males, on saying, how do we become more accountable? One of the things that I do is I try to just start with my own small circle and figure out, okay, well, what can I scale up to other folks? And one of the things that we talk about is, a good group of my friends, we've all started looking at, investing in our health, running more, eating better. I've, watching the amount of alcohol we consume. But then you're right, too, on the checkups. And this is one of the things that we want to talk about in the conversations is just creating a way to make it not, it's not a big deal. One of the ideas that I've been floating around with folks is, get 5 or 6 friends and pick an arbitrary day out the year. Say it's July 1st. Well, July 1st, we're all going to get a checkup. We're going to schedule it, and then we're going to meet for drinks that afternoon. And that way, you're accountable to some folks. You get it done. You make it a social thing. You make it something that's not that serious, but you get the benefit of actually, staying on top of that. And you're right. If we're all doing it, and if everybody's investing in it, and I'm gonna take your example. If we're all bending over and getting that prostate checked, what is there to be ashamed or concerned about it? If you're doing it, I'm doing it. It breaks down that unnecessary barrier that's put up for, like you said, social, cultural, and sometimes just ignorance that really is, really affecting us to our detriment. And that's, your point there is part of the reason why I'm trying to open up the space for dialogue, because it is a statement like that I think a lot of, and I can't even say younger brothers, just brothers in general need to hear and be able to address it. Like, what's more important, that perspective that you're holding on to dearly that doesn't dictate who or what you are as a person or as a man, or being here tomorrow and really being able to be that person to the friends and family that you really care about. So I appreciate the comment. I appreciate your openness. It's one of the things that I've tried to do in these conversations is really just kind of be vulnerable. I think is the bigger question. Our ability to be vulnerable as a people is tough. But allowing myself and letting folks to show that, my vulnerability never has and never will compromise my strength, because I think I show both of them. And I think it's a good juxtaposition. It allows everybody to know, it's possible.
Brother Mims? Oh, I guess he was just listening. I was sitting here just listening.
Okay. That sounds like a winner.
There you go. Thank you so much for your call. We really appreciate it. But I was just sitting here digesting that, and to see how passionate you are. How did this whole live and in color happen? Like,
and I'm a very transparent person. It happened out of working very closely with American Cancer Society, and as you mentioned, sitting on the Mid-Gulf Board, which is one of 5 regional boards, and then doing work at the national level, and just seeing, not a strong presence in the African American community, and again, not from a lack of willingness and not from trying, and just, not just the African American community, diverse communities. And I say this very plainly, and I've said this with ACS, and I've said this to everybody, even at the board level. I walk into the room, and it is middle-aged white men and women, and they are there working, participating, volunteering, and making decisions at the board level on our community, and we're not well represented. And there's only so much that they can do, no matter what their interests are and their desires. They can't speak on what it is to be a young black man diagnosed with cancer at the age of 30 and 2 young kids, and the cultural impact of that and the personal impact and just how it feels. So, that really pushed me into the space, and it really pushed me into, leaning into, but also leaning on ACS to say, hey, you guys have to do better. I'm a very, I'm not going to say big, but I do a ton of fundraising for the organization, and I want to make sure that
you do.
The resources that I put towards that.
And I will say thank you for that, because you actively make our age group aware through, your outreach, for the past, just like you said, 7 years. Yeah.
And what I was seeing is I want to make sure, I do that fundraising. I assume, and I want to make sure that when I raise $1, it's leveraged with this organization, and we get, more than $1, we get a multiple in return. And I was starting to question that. I was starting to see if, the resources I was putting in, were we, and I say we, our community, and then, geographically, this community, were we getting that in return? And then I started to realize, it's not from a lack of effort. It's from just this lack of diversity to understand what that return on investment is for that fundraising. So I said, you know what, I'm just going to dive in and figure it out myself and, see who I can
Those engineering skills came.
I think it's just more just the practical side of it, just saying, like, if it's not getting done, I'm not a big complainer. Like, I like to just fix it and just move on. So I said, you know what, I'm going to produce this conversation and reach out to some partner organizations and then use this as a launch pad for a national dialogue, but also to see who can keep up from an organization standpoint and who can't. And I think the first iteration of this is going to be a a litmus test for me personally to see what organizations, talk the talk and which ones can walk the walk. And I'll share with, as we talk, and I'll talk more about the event. As you mentioned, we're in multiple cities. And the one thing I wanted to do, because there is always, pushback I always get is, well, there's no funding for it. There's no resources for it. And I wanted to prove that that's actually, that's not true. It doesn't require a ton of resources. Right. So I am self-producing this event, and I am figuring out a way to do it and make it very scalable to the sense that the cost associated with it is minimal. Mm-hmm. Because if I can figure out a way to do it and it doesn't cost a ton of money to do it, then nobody can tell me that it can't be done. Right. And I can say, well, here's a model. Most of it is done through, in-kind contributions from a space standpoint and, some sweat equity, Right. And I'll be very transparent. I have chosen these dates and locations, to overlap with some of my business travel because it's another way to really get an economy of scale of saying, okay, well, I don't have to come out of my pocket for $1 just to make this one-off trip. I'm going to be in D.C. for business on Monday. I'm going to be in New York for business on Wednesday. I scheduled those. I'm going to be in Atlanta on the 22nd for business. So I said, we're going to do the talks that day because I can get, the benefit of me being in those cities anyway. I travel a ton for business. So, there will be a host of cities that I want to spend time in before the end of the year. And then I reached out to partner organizations that I consider anchors in the community, and, they were very receptive. The Aspen Institute, which I'm a fellow at, opened up their doors. So they're hosting the D.C. Iteration of the conversation at their global headquarters. Essence Magazine, which is very deeply rooted in this community. Yes. And Joy Prophet, who's now Joy Collins, and then Michelle Ebanks, the CEO, were very gracious to host the New York event. So the New York event, they've opened up their global headquarters, and they're hosting the New York conversation at Essence Magazine's headquarters. And then obviously in Atlanta, ACS is headquartered in the city of Atlanta, so they will be hosting the Atlanta iteration. And then I've also partnered with 100 Black Men of America and some other organizations to help push out representation from the communities to participate. And I could name a whole bunch in my mind. I don't have the paperwork in front of me, but there's a ton of folks, but those are the ones that jump out right away. Bloomberg in New York is partnering with us. Garnisha Crawford, who used to be with the city of New Orleans, is now there, and she's been very helpful. Schaumburg in New York. So just really folks that had what I consider also a reason to be part of this. And then what we want to do is, like I said, produce these 90-minute conversations in each city where, I open up the space. I'll much like I did with this conversation, I'll start by telling my story. I'll start by being a little bit transparent and vulnerable and really letting my guard down to allow folks to do the same. And then delve into what I consider an organic discussion. I don't have an agenda. We don't have a format. It's made some folks nervous because some folks really are so rigid in, trying to go about this. And I tell them that's why you keep getting rigid outcomes, because you're looking at it from a formula. It's not a formula. It needs to be natural, and you need to make people comfortable. So the goal is to, in these 4 cities for this iteration of the conversations, to sit down and just convene the multicultural representatives of these communities and have a dialogue. And then the outcomes, I think, for each city will be unique. I don't think each city will produce the same outcome. I think some cities, it may be a call to action, and we may leave there with a plan to do something. Some cities, it may be just this cathartic session of people just pouring out their feelings and thoughts and their frustration and anger. And some, I think it may be, me just sitting there and talking to people for 60 minutes and just telling them my thoughts and feelings. And I've left room for all of those options. And as we go through, again, D.C., New York, New Orleans, Atlanta, the goal is to also record the information that's produced. Document it. Yeah, because at the end of the day, something needs to be done with it. If it's just to produce a volume of information and data for people to begin to be more thoughtful around and to use as they communicate and as they do the work in the space, but it's also to see who are these stakeholders that want to be continually involved, perpetually involved, and how do we engage them. And it's just to figure out, and I'll share some anecdotal things that have came out of just promoting this, where I've learned a tremendous amount.
But you can't tell us that now because we're going to take a quick break.
I'll tell you that when we come
back. Exactly. Y'all, we are live and in color today on the Good Life Radio Show. We are having a conversation with Dwayne Bernal on cancer and diversity. He will be in Washington, D.C. on June 6th, New York City on June 8th, New Orleans on June 21st, and Atlanta on June 22nd. You can sign up for these conversations, y'all. They are absolutely free All of the links on the Good Life Radio Show Facebook page, at TGL Radio Show on Twitter, and at TGL Radio Show on Instagram. Do not miss it. We will be right back.
Are you satisfied with your current financial position? My name is Kenneth Barnes, President and CEO of KB Enterprises, where we specialize in putting together step-by-step financial action steps for your plan for today and for tomorrow. Whether you're 50 to 85 and need assistance with your final expenses, we have coverage options for every situation. Let us put life back into your finances. Call us today at 504-914-1202. That's 504-914-1202.
Small businesses play an important role in society, and L&R Security is no different. L&R Security delivers safety and comfort to our neighborhoods, events, apartment communities, conventions, work sites, festivals, and your business. L&R Security can be reached at 504-943-3191 to ensure the safety of your employees, customers, family, friends, and you. L&R Security has made its mark in the security arena for over 37 years and will faithfully continue that tradition. Call today for your personalized consultation to ensure your security needs are met. L&R Security differentiates itself by creating partnerships with our clients and guards. We are now hiring armed and unarmed guard professionals, retired military, sheriffs, and PD to grow with us and impact our community. Be a part of the change with L&R Security. Call us now at 504-943-3191. 504-943-3191. Carter Business Development delivers. For businesses to compete, they must have access. Let CBD be your bridge for business development services, radio advertising, social media marketing, brand ambassador, outreach, and access. Contact Carter Business Development at 504-400-7127 or email Eileen@tglradioshow.com. Carter Business Development creates unfolding opportunities. CBD connects the dots from where you are to where you want to be. Join the good life now with Carter Business Development, 504-400-7127, 504-400-7127. As quoted, a man who stops advertising to save money is like a man who stops a clock to save time. Let CBD save you time and give you access. Call 504-400-7127, 504-400-7127. Take the steps required for access so you can live the good life too with Carter Business Development. That's 504-400-7127.
Are you looking for a better way to get fit? Bored with the same old routines? Looking for results or a way to instill discipline in the kids? Tiger Rock Martial Arts is the answer with Taekwondo, kickboxing, and self-defense classes. Tiger Rock diversifies your training in ways that allows individuals of all ages and fitness levels to feel like a champion. Join Tiger Rock today. TigerRockNola.com or 504-455-9694. That's 504-455-9694 with a 3-class starter pack starting for only $38, which includes your training uniform. Learn, grow, and succeed with Tiger Rock's 3 convenient locations: Old Metairie, West Bank, and Clearview. There's no better time to start gaining strength, skills, and protection for life than now. 504-455-9694. 504-455-9694. See you on the mat.
Hi, I'm Henry Jolly, your relationship expert and nationally certified counselor. Everyone at some point in their life goes through struggles. I'm a firm believer that people have the ability to will themselves into good situations, but sometimes they may need some assistance. Being a loving husband, father, and successful businessman while having a passion for the counseling profession has allowed me to gain experience with a variety of these struggles. Let's work together to achieve your individual, family, or marital potential. Come and see me at the New Orleans Growth Center, located at 3712 MacArthur Boulevard on the West Bank in Suite 209. You can reach me at 504-259-8671 or by email, which is henry.jolly@yahoo.com. Thanks for your time, and I'm looking forward to working with you soon.
Gentili Italian Pie is home to the $5 Family Happy Hour. Specials on pizza, wings, and drinks Tuesday through Thursday, 3 p.m. to 7 p.m. Gentili Italian Pie does fresh for the entire family. Salads, pizza, pasta, wings, and oven-baked sandwiches. Gentili Italian Pie offers lunch and dinner in a new, modern atmosphere surrounded by big screen TVs. Dine in or carry out by calling 504-826-9180. That's 504-826-9180. Relax. Have a drink from the fully stocked bar or beer on tap while your order is made from the freshest ingredients. Gentili Italian Pie, 4706 Paris Avenue, is home where everybody knows your name. So bring the family to Paris and Marabout for the $5 Family Happy Hour, Tuesday through Thursday, 3 p.m. to 7 p.m. That's Gentili Italian Pie. Dine in or carry out. 504-826-9180. That's 504-826-9180. You gotta try the pie. That's the original Italian pie, located at Paris and Marabout in Gentili.
WBOK, New Orleans.
And welcome back to The Good Life with me, Eileen. We are here on The Good Life Friday, and we're here to open your mind. We are living the good life on this Friday, live and in color. And I'm so excited to be having this conversation with Mr. Dwayne Bernal. He is going to be facilitating a conversation with connectors and gatekeepers within various multicultural communities from Washington, D.C., New York City, Atlanta, and right here in New Orleans. And I know before we went to break that you wanted to share some anecdotes. So give me a little bit about that.
Well, no, it's just, I think, the process of producing these conversations and just really getting them out and engaging the community, even before we've started the first one, has just produced so many different positive effects already. And it's really started the dialogue even before we stepped into the first one on Monday. Mm-hmm. And, you know, one example is I think we did an email blast a couple days ago, and I got a text message, and it was you know, the gist of it was, you know, can you please do me a favor? When you have these conversations, can you make sure that people are considering the caregivers and talking about the needs of the caregivers and the cultural and the multicultural sensitivities of how even that's unique beyond just the folks that are diagnosed and how caregivers are affected. So I actually picked up the phone and called that individual back and wanted to have the dialogue because in addition to being a survivor, I was a primary caregiver. My sister-in-law, who really is my sister, she was married to my brother from me being 3 until she passed. In the last weeks of her life, I was her primary caregiver. So I've actually been on all sides of the equation. So as a survivor, as a caregiver, and as someone who lost a loved one. And in that conversation I had with this individual about them being a caregiver, they shared with me, you know, they were going through an issue with a family member, older family member, and just saying, you know, no one that I talked to from any of these organizations understands, you know, it was a black male, it was their father. It was like, you know, a prideful 75-year-old black man who doesn't want help, who doesn't want to be helped. And, you know, and then the conversation shifted to even like discussing hospice and saying, okay, well, I wasn't raised like that. I wasn't raised to send my parents off to die, or anyone in my family. And it's just, there are cultural nuances, and it goes to why the multicultural and the diversity piece is so important, because the resources that caregivers are given and the resources that are afforded and sent to them, if it's information, if it's counseling, if it's, you know, even dialogue, it's created in this space that doesn't have a ton of diversity. So folks are only lending to the discussion to create these resources based upon their own backgrounds and perspectives. So they may not really fully understand the cultural implications of what hospice means to a young black woman who was always raised that, you know, their faith doesn't allow them to even consider that as an option.
Right.
So it's just, that's important. And then, you know, the caregiver piece, and as I shared with you, as a caregiver is important. And we were talking about this during the break, but, you know, and I'll throw a number out there. This year, I think 1.5 million, statistic, 1.5 million people will be diagnosed with cancer, new cases.
That is beyond my imagination.
Correct. So, but when you think about it, how many, you know, people envelope and surround someone diagnosed? So how many caregivers are there? So for
Can you give us the numbers as well as the male, female? Like you were saying.
1 in 2 males will be diagnosed with cancer in their lifetime. So
like 1 in 2, like 1 in 2.
50%. It's like me and this.
And Lee.
2, yeah.
You
one
and
of,
Lee.
well, I'm the one. So
right.
Lee, you good. I'm the one. But if you bring one more person in here, the
right.
Soul Brothers, 2 of us are going to be diagnosed with cancer statistically.
Wow.
And it's 1 in 3 females. And then the numbers.
So me, Janae, Susan.
One of y'all.
One of us.
And potentially 1.2 of y'all, because the numbers for African Americans are higher.
Wow.
And there are some environmental, and I stay clear of that honestly because I am not an environmentalist and I don't have a background in it, but they are, and there's a lot of science and there's a lot of social justice behind it when you talk about the environmental disparities and how historically African Americans and people of color have been put in subpar environmental spaces where we are. Louisiana's big for what's called Cancer Alleys, where our communities are adjacent to plants and manufacturers that produce higher cancer.
We have Cancer Alley.
Correct.
So they call it, right?
Correct. So it's you know, there's a whole different topic behind that. So beyond our mortality rate being higher because of the cultural reasons that we don't really get health care on par with our counterparts, our incidence rate is higher because of the environmental injustice of how we have been allowed to plant ourselves geographically in the space, you know, of this country. So it's a 1-2 punch that creates why, you know, people of color, you know, die from cancer at a rate, you know, unprecedented. And then, you know, going back to the caregiver piece, you know, like I said, doing the quick numbers. So you talk about 1.5 million new cases. So if you got 2, 3, 4, 5 caregivers, the numbers could be anywhere from 5 to 10 to 15 million people this year who will be affected. And, you know,
I mean, because they are listeners. Every listener knows someone who has had cancer.
It's not even a degree of separation anymore. Right. So what it is for me when this used to be my fundraising, when I would do my fundraising and I would really appeal to my friends and family and my professional counterparts. Every time I talked to somebody, everybody had their story. You know, I was in Los Angeles last week doing some work with the Aspen Institute, and the gentleman that was hosting, you know, had just lost his mother. And we started talking about this. And then a young lady comes up into the conversation and she had just lost her father. And it's just like, it is an epidemic. It is, you know, and it's deadly. It's more deadly than some diseases that, you know, folks get, you can live with, but,
right.
but for cancer, just it's a killer, you know. And again, I went to, and I'll focus on that event. I went to that event last Thursday in Los Angeles. There's maybe 10 people there. Started talking about this work that I'm doing just in a general space, and it was a social cocktail hour. Before I left there, of the 10 people, 3 of the people in there had lost a loved one to cancer that I talked to, that were willing to share that with me.
Right.
More of
everybody's not, you know, able to be vulnerable or willing.
And I didn't have a chance to talk to all 10 of the people either.
Wow.
But of the 6 people I talked to, half of them, one had lost their mother, one had lost their father, and another one had lost their best friend at the age of 33. And that's in 5 people that I had a conversation specific to this topic. 3 of the 5 had lost a loved one. So it's you know, and that further just, it's discouraging because of the truth of it. It's encouraging to me to know that I have to do more, and I have to put more time and energy into this. And that's, you know, again, the potential outcome for these talks, and to kind of just bring it home when talking about what Live and in Color is, you know, and there's a little bit of play on words there too, because it's Live and in Color, but it's living in color. You know, we want it to be both of those, but the goal is to really create this space for dialogue and to make people comfortable to talk and to tear down false walls that have prevented, you know, folks from maximizing their benefit from whatever resources are available, are creating new resources because I think it's something new. I think there's specific to people of color, and then when I say multicultural, so I want to make this clear also. It's not a black thing. It is multicultural in the sense of different ethnicities, nationalities, sexual orientation. Age is a big one too. Again, because how a 25-year-old individual deals with a diagnosis or being a caregiver is totally different from how a 75-year-old individual does.
Right.
So, there's a whole different set of, so I walk in the room and I tell you before, I don't see anybody. I'm typically the youngest person in the room also. So it's like, how do I can't represent for every single person, if you want to use millennial, Generation X, whatever. So we need more of those folks involved because, again, it's a different space. Right. We're all under the cancer umbrella, but we deal with it very differently. So what I'm trying to do is, again, and obviously I try to represent the black community primarily, but also there are these other secondary and tertiary multicultural communities that I think have been, marginalized, not intentionally, but marginalized nonetheless in the considerations in these policies, programs, protocols, outreach, whatever it is that, keeps them further disenfranchised from the benefit of, whatever work that's being done in the space, and then also equally disenfranchised from the consideration as that work is done and put together. And again, the environmental side, there's a whole show that, some much more educated on that topic folks could come in and talk about. But that's at some point we have to start looking at environmental equality because, right now I just have to deal with what we can control, and we can control what we do with our own lives and our own bodies.
But the fact that you are doing this and opening people's minds to living differently in the world is such a huge step for all of us, because I think just as Brother Mims, when he called, it's shame. Mm-hmm. And when we can break through shame, what a difference we can make. I mean, it's like taking a monkey off your back, and we can make a difference, and you are making a difference. It is live and in color. It's a conversation on cancer and diversity. It will be all over the United States, in Washington, D.C. on June 6th, New York City on June 8th, New Orleans on June 21st, Atlanta on June 22nd. You can go on the Good Life Radio Show and sign up for these events anywhere, but make sure if you're in the New Orleans area that you make sure that you are there. June 21st, you can just hit the link and sign up. It is free. I will put it on there all day. Y'all will be sick of seeing the link, but make sure you go hit it and sign up. Dwayne, if there is one thing that you get from this and one person you touch, what does a good life with, for this event look like for you?
I mean, and you answered it for me is, at the end of the day, if all these travels, all these talks, all these conversations, if I can help one person, that's it's worth it for me. If at the end one person is incrementally, if it's just a small piece better off than before, because although it is a tremendous amount of energy for me, I feel like, I don't know, it's just what I don't know how to not do it. So it's, ultimately I've never looked at, and I told somebody the other day, and I actually was talking to one of the reps from American Cancer Society, and I was like, look, if I go to one of these cities and nobody shows up, and and it's just me and American Cancer Society staff, I'm gonna give y'all the earful from my perspective,
right? And
it will be productive, Luckily, and I've been looking. I mean, the numbers are great. I think New York we're gonna have about 30 folks, and again, these are round tables, small discussions, but we have no limit on how many folks we can have. But I like the fact that we're getting these groups that will allow for dialogue. DC is the same. New Orleans is going to be a little bit larger, I think, just because this is home and I have a,
we have to come out and support you. We have to come out and support you. And just like I said, we all know someone that's been affected by this. I know cancer is rampant in my family, so.
And the other thing I would encourage, too, is, I know the listeners here, but everyone has family and friends in some of these other cities. Feel free to share with them. If you know someone in D.C. or New York or Atlanta, let them know, and they're welcome to come out. I know it's next week for the first two, but there is no such thing as too late. They can sign up as late as, the day of the event and come on out. We won't turn anybody away, but ultimately at the end of the day is, I just want to help someone. Obviously if I can get, exponentially help more than one person, that's great. But I think what's the value of a life? Right. How much is a life worth? Is a life for me worth 100 hours of my time? Yes. If I can help someone's life and if I can save a life, if somebody goes and they get checked out and they are, because of this conversation, they detect it early and it saves their lives. If it's 1,000 hours, if it's 10,000 hours, if I have them available, it's worth it. What's the value of one life? And for me, there is none. So everything I can do, if by the end of my life, if I've saved one, then I'm good.
What a difference one person can make. Y'all, this is The Good Life. Open Your Mind to Living Differently in the World is live and in color, a conversation on cancer and diversity with Dwayne Bernal. It is in Washington, D.C. on June 6th, New York City on June 8th, New Orleans on June 21st, and Atlanta on June 22nd. You can go on The Good Life Radio Show and sign up. The links will all be there. Please share it and make sure that you touch someone. Open your mind to living differently in the world. Let's break through this. Let's live a good life, y'all. This is Good Life. I'm out.